Welcome back, everyone. We got part 7, the Battle of Gitschin. This has basically been like the retreat point for several of these battles. Is Gitschin. We got to get back to Gitschin. So let's see what happens at Gitschin. Glad you're here with me. Make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet already, I implore you to do so. Let's go. I don't know why I'm saying peace out. Let's go. It would be better if a bullet found me. Dang. Because he feels dishonored. His progress, his performance, or his army's performance.
On June 29th, 1866, the Austrian Empire found itself in a precarious situation as the Prussian army launched an invasion and secured a series of victories. The outcome of the conflict was far from certain. In the Western theatre, 2 Prussian armies advanced. These were the Elbe army led by Herwarth von Bittenfeld and the First Army commanded by Prince Friedrich Karl. They closed in on the Austrian Iser army under the joint leadership of General Climactic and Crown Prince Albert of Saxony. Following their defeat at Königgrätz, Climactic made the decision to retreat to Gitschin. His hope was to receive reinforcements from Archduke Ernest's Austrian Army Corps, which would help balance the odds against the larger Prussian forces. Positioned advantageously among hills, they intended to make a stand and repel the fatigued and disheveled Prussian army, which was grappling with logistical challenges. However, the situation took a turn on June 28th when a Prussian army achieved victory over Archduke Leopold's 8th Corps at Skalitz.
Yeah, they crushed Leopold.
Upon receiving news of yet another defeat, Ludwig von Benedek, the Austrian commander, issued orders to his corps commanders. These orders outlined the plan for the North Army to assume a central position on the Elbe River at Königgrätz, awaiting the return of Gablen's forces. Once the Prussian Second Army came within striking distance, the Austrian North Army would engage them, aiming to annihilate the Crown Prince's Second Army. Subsequently, they would march westward to confront and defeat Friedrich Karl's First Army. The unexpected decision to abandon the advance towards Gitschin caused a significant shift in focus, leading to confusion among the already disorganized Austrian corps commanders. Compounding the confusion, Field Marshal Benedek chose to delay dispatching the orders until 8 a.m. on June 29th, despite the situation's urgency. Consequently, units that had already set out westward had to retrace their steps.
Dang.
While frustrated staff,
What a waste of time.
officers and commanders already on edge, criticized Benedek for his indecisiveness and perceived incompetence. In line with the agreed plan between Gablenz and Benedek, Gablenz had intended to retreat to the Elbe, with the expectation that a brigade from the Austrian 4th Corps would safeguard his left flank at Deutsch-Prausnitz. However, the headquarters of the North Army accidentally directed the brigade to Česká-Prausnitz, which was considerably further west.
Yeah.
As Gablenz initiated his retreat following the disastrous Battle of Berkersdorf, his appeals for reinforcements at Deutsch-Prausnitz went unanswered, since no troops were stationed there. From the southern front, Count Karl Thun's 2nd Corps arrived near Josefstadt. However, their strenuous march since June 17th, coupled with a lack of food for the past 12 hours and no sleep the previous night, left the soldiers utterly exhausted and on the verge of collapse. Even with reinforcements, Benedek's predicament remained unchanged. The weary troops made their way to Königgrätz, but a more pressing issue loomed to their west. The decision to abandon the march on Gitschin was not effectively communicated to the Austrian Iser army.
Oh no, they're gonna get ran through.
Unaware of the shift in circumstances, both Albert and Clamgallus found themselves severely outnumbered and devoid of any hope for reinforcements. Meanwhile,
Where's Albert going?
the Prussian Elbe and First Armies encountered significant challenges. The strain on their logistics, 3 consecutive days of relentless battles, and forced marches had taken a toll on the troops. Hunger and fatigue plagued their ranks. In Berlin, the commander-in-chief of the Prussian forces, Helmut von Moltke, received fragmented information about the battles that had transpired 2 days prior. The telegraph communication lines operated with great difficulty. Prince Friedrich Karl's insubordination led to the entire Prussian entourage, including Bismarck and the King, making the journey from Berlin to Bohemia to oversee the campaign.
Really?
Communication within Bohemia was similarly problematic, and it was not until the eve of the Battle of Königgrätz that Prince Friedrich Karl's First Army and Crown Prince Friedrich Wilhelm's Second Army managed to establish contact. On June 29th, Prince Friedrich Karl of the First Army received instructions from Moltke, commanding him to advance eastward and exert pressure on Benedict's forces. In compliance with these orders, he dispatched General August Werder, leading the Prussian 3rd Division, to conduct reconnaissance near Gitschin. Meanwhile, Herwarth von Bittenfeld's Elbe army turned its focus southward, following the same path previously taken by the Saxons leading to Jungbunzlau. The vanguard of this Prussian force was led by the 5th Division under the command of Wilhelm von Tumpling. Both Prussian armies were fatigued, hungry, and grappling with a growing number of illnesses. Moreover, they faced a significant numerical disadvantage, with the enemy outnumbering them by almost 3-1. Clam Gallus's Iser army remained confident that reinforcements could arrive at any moment. Therefore, they opted to deploy their forces around Gitschin, preparing for an imminent battle.
Here we go. There is nothing to eat here. With hungry, exhausted men and horses, we cannot possibly fight.
Ever since the wars against Frederick the Great, Bohemia had served as a favored maneuvering area for the Austrian army and a training ground for their engineers.
Well, how did that help them in this,
The densely wooded elevated terrain to the north and west of Gitschin had been meticulously assessed for its defensive potential. Deploying brigades against exhausted and thirsty Prussian forces was almost a routine for Clam, adhering to their standard operating procedure. The Saxon retreat from Mönchengrätz proved to be a lengthy detour, with the Saxon 2nd Division arriving in the afternoon. Utterly fatigued, the Saxon 1st Division remained stationed in Gitschin-Evers. On the 29th, the 2 Saxon brigades making their way to Gitschin commenced their march at 3 a.m. and proceeded for 7 hours.
A lot of these armies, they get up early. They get up real early. So you better have a clock that works.
Upon reaching the outskirts of Gitschin at Podrad, situated 10 kilometers south of Klam's position at Brada-Dilek, Prince Albert determined that no battle would take place that day. Instead of positioning his division accordingly, which would have necessitated additional hours of marching and maneuvering under the scorching midday heat, he set up camp over an hour's distance to the south of the designated sector.
Okay.
Unintentionally, this created a perilous gap in the Iser army's front line at Gitschin. Deprived of the Saxons, Clam Gallus's 1st Corps and 1st Light Cavalry Division mustered a mere 40,000 troops.
It's a lot.
In order to fortify the town against potential Prussian offensives from the west, Clam strategically selected a renowned position, which had long been praised by Austrian staff mappers. This position extended north and west of Gitschin, flanking the Privisine, a forested cliff. The heights were occupied by Vinzenz Abel's brigade, while Josef Ringelsheim's brigade held the left wing, guarding the road from Mönchengrätz at Lochhof. The center of the defensive formation rested on Brada Hill, commanded by General Ferdinand Post-Archer's brigade, with support from Leiningen. On the right wing, General Ludwig Pirey positioned his brigade consisting of 4 battalions in the elevated village of Eisenstattel, which overlooked the road leading in from Turnau. Crucially, the space between Postgacker and Pirey was meant to be held by the Saxon army, thus forming a vulnerable gap between the Austrian center and the right flank.
Let me guess, the Prussians are going to thread that needle.
Clam Gallus's second-in-command, Leopold Gondracourt, allocated 56 of his 69 artillery pieces to this critical juncture, along with the deployment of Leopold Edelheim's 1st Light Cavalry Division. This time, it was the Prussian formations that struggled amid the marshy meadows and treacherous terrain. From the northwestern front,
we're gonna pause again. Once again, guys, as we saw last video, the Austrians are in position, but will they be too aggressive? We'll see.
Prussian 5th Division, commanded by Wilhelm von Tumpling, advanced toward the town of Gitschin. Despite being outnumbered and expecting the Austrian 3rd Corps to reinforce the Iser army if he delayed, Tumpling made the decision to launch an attack. He positioned his artillery batteries and initiated a cannonade to soften the Austrian positions. Crown Prince Albert of Saxony and his forces were alerted by the artillery barrage unleashed by Tumpling. Albert dedicated the following hours to maneuvering the Saxon 2nd Division into position to the north. Clam Gallus, contemplating retreat, ultimately opted to engage in battle, relying on the potential reinforcement of Archduke Ernst's 3rd Corps. By 5 p.m., following an intense artillery duel, Tumpling ordered his 9th Brigade to advance towards the Tidlina Creek, targeting Zames and Dilek. Simultaneously, his 10th Brigade moved forward towards the Privy Sin. Both Prussian brigades faced the onslaught of fire from Clam's 12 batteries. The Austrian Lorenz model rifles, renowned for their long-range capabilities, inflicted heavy casualties on the Prussian troops as they traversed the vast open land. Despite being wounded, Tumpling relentlessly pushed the attack forward. In a swift maneuver, a Prussian vanguard cleared Podolsk, subjecting 2 of Poscharka's battalions to rapid firing and forcing them to flee.
That was quick.
Regrouped his regiments in the village of Brada, situated further up from Podolsy along the Privy. To counter the Prussian rifles' superior rate of fire, Poscharka instructed his line troops to focus solely on loading rifles and passing them forward to his sharpshooting Jaeger. This strategy proved successful, as 3 Prussian companies attempting to storm Brada suffered heavy casualties and were driven back.
Okay.
By 6 p.m., the 3rd Division, led by August von Werder, arrived from the west.
I did not see this left side coming. This is Werder. I forgot about him.
And immediately joined the ongoing battle. They launched a swift attack against Eberle and Ringelsheim's brigades near Lochow, recognizing the need for immediate action. Tumpling's left-hand column, consisting of 5 battalions, advanced along the northern slope of the Privy. Seeking to regain the upper hand, Tumpling aimed to flank and attack Poscharka's brigade at Brada with his 10th Brigade, while his 9th Brigade remained halted. However, as Tumpling maneuvered through the rugged terrain, he unexpectedly encountered Aberle's brigade, which swiftly rushed forward in storm columns to repel the flanking assault. A fierce hand-to-hand struggle ensued, leading to the retreat of the Prussian 10th Brigade.
Wow!
They regrouped and withdrew westward through the trees. Clam's front held its ground, with Ringelsheim's brigade successfully pushing back the leading Prussian battalion of Werder's 3rd Division on the Münchengrätz road. The subsequent Prussian attack was targeted at the center-right position near the hamlet of Zams, where they encountered the 45th Regiment of Pire's brigade. According to Prussian eyewitnesses, these Austrian troops, comprised of Italians, had to be coerced into battle with loaded revolvers aimed at their backs. Notably, a
they must not have any morale.
Executed salvo from the Prussians forced them to retreat, enabling Tumpling to advance with 3 batteries.
Wow.
It was difficult to comprehend how 2 Prussian battalions managed to establish themselves in Zams, a critical point within the Austrian position, without being swiftly overwhelmed by the overwhelming force surrounding them. Surprisingly, Leiningen's brigade, positioned as a reserve just 2 kilometers away, remained inactive, while Pire's regiment stubbornly refused to engage the needle rifle.
Dang, no one wants to fight on the Austrian side.
The Austrian saber cavalry proved ineffective against the disciplined Prussian infantry. General Edelsheim attempted to deploy several squadrons of Austrian hussars against Zames, only to witness their repulsion by the rapid and accurate Prussian fire, resulting in 50 casualties. Our infantry accomplished this in a linear formation, recalled a Prussian officer, without even bothering to form defensive squares. The Austrian
Usually when your cavalry comes, you get defensive and you form these squares so you can't get flanked by the versatile horses. They didn't even believe that those horses could get to them. That's insane.
batteries positioned on Privsin and around Eisenstadtel provided the most effective resistance against Tumpling's advance, subjecting Zeims to intense bombardment and causing the village to catch fire. The Prussian battalion stationed in Zams seized the opportunity to move forward, racing towards Dilek, a crucial point in the Austro-Saxon defense of Gitschin. As the Prussians looked south towards Gitschin, they observed a Saxon brigade making its way north to occupy Dilek. Despite its unfavorable location, being a low-lying village vulnerable to enfilade fire from all directions, Dilek held strategic importance as it flanked the Privisen Massif and spanned the Sidlina. The Prussians successfully drove back the belated Saxon forces across the Sidlina. Meanwhile, at Eisenstadtel, Pire took the initiative without explicit orders from Clam or Prince Albert. He deployed his entire brigade in battalion columns, accompanied by marching bands, and led them towards the Chidlina. Despite being outnumbered, the Prussians maintained composure, aligning their rifle sights at a distance of up to 250 meters.
And that's 150 meters less than those Austrians were doing. Or, did I have that backwards? Because somebody could do it up to 400 meters. I forget who. I thought it was the Austrians.
And initiating a barrage of fire. After 3 volleys, Pire's first column faltered and broke. Undeterred, he dispatched 2 more columns, comprising 3 battalions in total, towards Zeims to flank and seize Dilek from behind. Recognizing the peril posed by this maneuver, Tumpling deployed his last reserve battalion, mobilizing it from Podolsy to Zeims.
With already a lot of casualties in that particular piece.
Upon arrival, the reserve battalion greeted Pire's storm columns with rapid and accurate gunfire. The Pire brigade was defeated by 6 Prussian companies, resulting in a significant 25% casualties and isolated from the main army, subsequent disbandment. As the Prussian forces pressed forward, Austrian troops began to retreat from the Privisen area, desperately trying to escape the advancing, exhausted Prussian companies.
So are the Saxons.
Despite the proximity of Leuningen's brigade and Poschacher's reserves, they remained motionless and eventually fled as well.
I mean, they just literally watched this battle. They didn't even help.
The loss of Dilek, a crucial point in the Austrian position, was now in the hands of the Prussian 5th Division. Then Werder's 6th Brigade launched another attack, aiming to flank Ringelsheim's brigade at Lochhof and complete the encirclement initiated by Tumpling. Despite encountering resistance from Abel's brigade, which descended from the Privisen for a second time, Werder's forces persisted. As the battle continued, the left wing of the Austrian position became obscured by powder smoke. Some Prussian units depleted their ammunition and had to be withdrawn for reloading. In the midst of confusion, Werder deployed grenadiers to advance straight up the road, successfully pushing back Abele and Ringelsheim with rapid fire. The Prussians, having expended all their ammunition in the process, observed 2 of Abele's battalions positioned on the Privisen, but making no attempt to engage the exposed flank offered by the Prussians as they moved through Lochhof to capitalize on their victory. Now there was no obstacle standing between Werder and Gitschin. At approximately 8 p.m., an order from Benedek arrived, delivered by horseback, instructing the Iser army to join him as part of the North Army's change of plans.
Wow.
The message mentioned new positions detailed in the appendix, but to Clam's dismay, the appendix was missing.
Oh.
This was just one of many costly mistakes made during Prussia's invasion. Clam Gallus and his deputy, Count Leopold Gondrecourt, were determined to continue the fight, recognizing the risks involved in disengaging from a chaotic battle in the darkness where the troops from both sides were intermingled. However, Albert, the Saxon crown prince, overruled their objections and ordered the Saxons to retreat.
Okay.
Consequently, the Austrians had no choice but to withdraw as well. As predicted by Clam and Gondrecourt, the tactical outcome was unfavorable. The Saxons managed to retreat in relatively good order. However, the exhausted Austrian battalions, many of whom had not been adequately fed that day or in the preceding days, lost cohesion and scattered. The corps staff was unable to provide effective assistance in restoring order. Hochaker and Lingen passed through Gitschin without realizing how the battle had been lost. In a matter of moments, they found themselves with Prussian forces behind them after having held a solid front.
It's crazy to think how well defended they looked. But they just got ran through, and everyone on the hill just sat there and just did nothing.
It had been a grueling day of combat. The Prussian First Army suffered over 1,500 casualties by the time they finally secured Gitschin sometime after midnight on the 29th. Among them were 329 killed and 1,212 wounded. The Austrians incurred losses of nearly 5,000 soldiers and 184 officers, equivalent to the strength of an entire brigade. The Saxons lost nearly 600 soldiers. Only one regiment of the Austrian First Corps remained intact, while the other 7 regiments were severely battered, broken, and abandoned. Despite holding a strong position, the Iser army suffered defeat at the hands of 2 Prussian divisions, primarily due to strategic and tactical errors. Following their victory, the Prussian forces faced challenges as they lacked essential supplies. Objectively speaking, the Austrians still possessed some strategic advantages on June 30th. The main Prussian armies remained geographically separated, and the North Army, reinforced by the 3 corps of Albert, Clamgallus, and Gablenz, held a numerical superiority over its enemies.
Yeah, every single battle you guys have had a numerical superiority, but what has happened?
Though morale among the ranks was noticeably low, logistical efforts such as providing edible rations and replacing worn uniforms and lost equipment could potentially address this issue. Upon learning of the outcome at Gitschin, Benedek made the decision to abandon the current position, considering its significant tactical weaknesses, and retreat toward Olmütz, pausing briefly at Königgrätz.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
The next video will be Königgrätz, and I'm so excited to watch that. Guys, once again, we see the Prussians strategically not even overwhelmed, but just win. They just win their one-on-ones. They win their battles. And we've seen time and time again that the Prussians, with their better weaponry and their ability to be aggressive in the right moments, have proved just prosperous for them. It seems that there's going to be a humongous numerical edge for Austria for Königgrätz, and they're desperate. What will this mean for the Prussians? How will they attack them here? Will the left be able to meet up with the right, or will it just be the right? I'm not sure. Guys, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been another episode of the Austro-Prussian War. As always, make sure to hit that like button and subscription. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Bye-bye.